Genius.
We're all set.
Good evening. Welcome to the Committee on Finance regular meeting. It is Tuesday, November 4th at 5:32. I'm Providence Councilwoman Joanne Ryan. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Ryan,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Here.
Councilor Antoine here, Councilwoman Briggs,
Present.
Councilor Sanchez.
Present.
We have 5 present, we have a quorum.
Okay, let the record reflect that we are joined by Councilman House and Councilwoman Peterson.
So noted.
Okay, what I'd like to do is, well, of course, we have to recognize our
I know.
team,
Cool.
our team,
Yeah. Thank you.
joined us as well, not to mention our fabulous clerks that run the whole show. Okay, with that, I'd like to take an item out of order because we've got so many people here for item 2. So I'm going to ask for a motion to take item 2 first. May I have that motion?
So moved.
A motion made by Vice Chair Taylor, seconded by Councilor Anwar. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you kindly read item 2 into the record?
Resolution requesting the mayor of Providence to authorize and to execute the attached lease with Waterfire Providence for the property located at 475 Valley Street.
Okay. Why don't we get everybody that is going to testify on water fire up, get them sworn up. Are there any residual people here for the other matter?
Yes, Liz is here, but that's what she says.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm just saying we can say it all at once. Let's
Oh,
go.
yeah, okay.
Madam Clerk, would it be okay if we swear? Well, everyone?
Yes.
Both items. Thank you. Raise your right hands on swearing.
You swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
And please state your names for the record. You can start on this side.
Sarah Silver, Treasurer.
Courtney Hopkins, Chief Operating Officer.
Christina Down.
Mark Allen. Craig Hopkins, city engineer.
Bob Walsh. Joe Wilson Jr., Director of Agriculture and Tourism.
Thank you. Okay, welcome to the table. Please lead off.
Okay, so thanks for having us. Director Wilson and I are gonna go through the lease and then we're gonna invite the water fire team to come up and talk about why we're doing this. Let them comment on their organization's current fiscal state and their plans for the future. So in summary, the lease before you is a 20-year lease between the city and water fire. The rent for the lease is $1 a year. The purpose of the lease is to provide for Waterfire Providence to use it for its operations kind of as it is now or as it sees fit. The city's not taking ownership over the operations of the building at all. Waterfire will maintain responsibility for 100% of the maintenance and operations of the building, all repairs, and they have an obligation to keep the building kind of at its current state or better. They also have a responsibility to insure the building. And then there are, a bunch of kind of standard legal lease terms. In terms of why we're doing this, we talked about it a little bit as it relates to the bond that came before you. The mayor and his team believe that water fire is a really important asset to the city. The mayor often says that when he's traveling, the first thing people say to him is, "Oh, we're the city that lights the rivers on fire." That's so cool. And we believe in the possibility of what this organization can achieve in the future. We all know that water fire has had a history of financial challenges and have had the benefit of spending some time with both the board and the leadership team to understand their approach to overcoming those challenges and feel confident in their ability to do that. And this transaction, different from other times when organizations come before us and ask for grants, provides the city with an asset. We will be purchasing the building for a little bit less than half of what its current appraised value was. And we expect the building to appreciate over time, and the city will have future ability to do with that building as it sees fit. So different than just giving the organization a grant, this is a transaction that we believe from a fiscal perspective makes good sense for the city. I will allow Director Wilson to comment further about the organization. Before I do that, I also want to say that I've been around a lot of nonprofit boards. I have been very impressed by the commitment of this board to both provide oversight, but also actually do work that helps the organization, which makes me personally feel much more confident in having to move this forward. You're going to hear from some of those board members tonight, but I think it is a testament to how important this organization is to the city and the state, that the caliber of people that have committed themselves to the organization are also doing significant work to help move it forward. And Director Wilson sits on that board as part of his official capacity.
All I'd like to add is that, there are things that are iconic, in the city and the state. We talk about, the hot dog, the gaggers, we talk about the bucket of calamari that was at the Democratic National Convention. We talk about the cohogs that we put in airports. But there is no signature event that brings the people of Providence and this state and region together like Waterfire. And I think that it is an important time for the city to make a statement here by investing in one of our, if not most important cultural assets in this city. This goes at the heart of our identity as a city. And I don't think that any of us want on our watch to see a piece of our identity, our soul ripped away because of the challenges that the organization currently faces. And to the chief's point, sitting on this board, I have witnessed the level of care and expertise, thoughtful collaboration that has gone into not just seeing this purchase as a Band-Aid, but as a sizable shift in how this institution, the culture of how this institution does its business. And so on behalf of the Department of Agriculture and Tourism, the city of Providence, as a proud member of this community and of this state, I think this is singularly one of the most important investments in our cultural landscape that we are making in a generation. This is an important investment. It's a smart investment. It's a strategic investment. And so I full-heartedly support this work, and you all have heard me talk enough in the past, so I don't need to go on. This is an important investment, and the city would be stupid to not double down on what the board is trying to do and what we are trying to do in terms of the mayor's office and making sure that Waterfire once and for all remains at the center of the identity of our city, but more importantly, celebrating, I speak personally, I believe, was one of the most important infrastructure investments in a century, which was uncovering that river and what that has meant for downtown and then for Providence, and really what is meant for this truly generational investment in terms of our riverfront. So that's all.
Thank you.
Should I invite the water park team up? Please, okay.
Before you speak, Bob, I would like to ask my committee members for a motion to add item 2A to the packet of letters that we received on this matter into the record. May I have that motion? Motion made by Councilwoman Graves, seconded by Council Vice Chair Taylor. All in favor, aye, and opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. The attachments are attached. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Bob Walsh. After a brief 16-year absence, I returned to the Waterfire Board last year. And I've got the easiest job of the board members testifying tonight. First, I want to say that our chair, Kate Ransom, very much wanted to be here. She had a business commitment, but she watched the tape, so I want to make sure I mentioned that Kate Ransom wanted to be here tonight. And really, I just want to start with thank you. thank you, to the city council, thank you to the mayor and the many mayors before for a 30-year relationship. It's called Waterfire Providence for a reason. It is a partnership that works for all three parties very well. And this, the lease before you tonight and the bond that you have already approved strengthens and expands and allows that partnership to really continue for another 20 years. When I returned to the board last year, I realized some things were exactly the same, that we had a wonderful event that many of you have participated in and seen on the river. And we had something they didn't have when I left, a Waterfire Art Center, a building, a place for the community to gather in a different way than they gather at the Waterfire events. And both are important. And I've got experts to talk tonight about why. First, you're going to hear from Barnaby Evans, who we all know, who is the creator and still live participant in making sure that the art and soul of the event continues. Then you'll hear from Kristen Adamo, who is a Waterfire board member, but you'll hear from her also in her day job as the head of Go Providence, the Providence Organization Visitors Bureau, to talk a little bit about the economics. And I saw Kristen and her crew at Waterfire on Saturday night with 30 travel writers from around the country so they can go and extol the virtues of coming to Providence. And finally, you'll hear from Mark Allen, who we brought on just last year as our interim executive director, and as of tomorrow's board meeting, will be our permanent executive director to help us move forward into the future. We had a real challenge that was fairly obvious when I came to the board. It was, you know, this COVID thing that caused us not to be able to do events, and that caused a pretty big financial hit to the organization. But the good news, while we did not have an endowment, we did have a building, and the building was essentially the endowment of the organization. And, you know, in the fiduciary responsibility of board members, we had two potential directions. We could sell out, and Courtney pointed out the cost of the building they're paying is less than half the appraised value. And say, why would a former banker like me, you know me as a union guy, Joanne, the chair, remembers that I was a banker in my early life, do that? Because, well, you put the rest of the value into the lease payment. So you get a deal on the building and we get a deal on the lease, and you still have a wonderful economic value for the whole package. But it causes a partnership between us that will go for the next 20 years. And that is the beauty of a win-win deal like this. You don't get many win-win economic deals, and this is certainly one of them. But it also keeps that other part of Waterfire alive, because Waterfire grew in my absence. It's not only the event on the river that gets the national attention, it's the building, the art center that brings the community together in a very different way. I'm excited to be here and to say thank you and to encourage you to support the lease as the final part of the transaction. And I'm excited to be back involved on the Waterfire board. You know, I'm one of those born in Providence Line and hospital kids, so Providence is also where my soul is. And I'm just, I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions. We're going to hear from the experts, and I'll probably give you all the answers.
Thank you very much. Barnaby?
Greetings, everyone. I would again like to start with thank you. It's been an amazing 30 years of collaboration from I've known many of you as I look around the room. We've had, he brought what, 30 people down from part of the Kennedy School of Government the 2 fires ago. We've had so many collaborations. We started celebrating the Providence school teachers about 16 years ago, and now we do it statewide. And the concept of Waterfire was first when they uncovered the rivers, which was, I agree, an absolutely brilliant piece of urban development. You still had to get people there. And so I watched almost a year while things were not happening there and wondered if we couldn't use art to be that pump primer to get people down there. Because once you get people there, that possibility could happen there. And I watched all the bankers for Providence Place be brought down. They happened to bring them by on Waterfire night, so to speak. Remarkable, the orientation of how they chose their dates. But the idea of Waterfire was, what could we do to bring the entire community around a universal symbol of welcome and warmth, which was the warmth and light of a bonfire, and to build in a metaphor of volunteers keeping our city alive and bright and engaged. And that's what we do with water fire. I did want to bring two more letters here and hope we can introduce them with the permission of the chair. One is a letter of recommendation from Jordan Seabury, who's a wonderful Black artist and professor. And I'll send those down. There should be a copy for each of you, but I want to make sure it gets into the record. And then also, these are testimonials from 4 of the students from our Accelerate program, who are a program we did to create opportunities to be engaged with the arts who might not otherwise have access through going to art school or something like that. That's all I'm gonna say now. I'm sure you'll have questions and we're available to answer them, but the idea was to celebrate everything that is positive about Providence and engage people in about what we loved about our city, and then sharing those ethnic resources and stories we have in this.
Wonderful, okay, committee members, can I please, have a motion to add these 2 letters? One is, Water Fire Providence at the top, selected testimony excerpts from 2025, Accelerate Hopefully. That's one letter, and then there's a second one, to this body, from Jordan Seabury. You all have a copy of it. I'd like to call this packet of letters, Exhibit 2B. Have that motion? Vice Chair Taylor makes that motion, seconded by Councilwoman Enblock. All in favor, aye, opposed, ayes have it, motion carries, we have those added to the letter. Okay. Have you concluded your testimony, Barnaby? Thank you so much.
That's our questions.
Okay, who's up next?
We are.
You guys are very efficient, thank you.
We'll do it.
I'll kick us off then. Good evening. As my colleague Bob Walsh said, I am Kristen Adamo. I am the president and CEO for Providence, the Providence Warwick Convention and Visitors Bureau. I also happen to be a proud member of the Water Fire Board of Directors. My organization, as many of you know, brings visitors into the city through meetings, conventions, sporting events, and leisure travel. In 2024, 8 million people visited Providence, which is more than slightly less than the entirety of Newport County. So tourism is big business here. Last fiscal year, my team booked 233 meetings, conventions, and sporting events that were worth about $98 million in direct spend revenue to Rhode Island. And I can tell you, with the exception of the Rhode Island Convention Center, there is no single more powerful draw for Providence than water fire. It is the one unique experience that you can find here that you cannot find anywhere else in the world. And as a matter of fact, I'm on a committee that Commerce has convened to look at the effectiveness of events, and research that was conducted by them in the last few months found that the only event in Rhode Island that is a worldwide draw with worldwide recognition is water. For the past couple of years, we've been compiling hotel data from water fire weekends and looking at that with weekends in those same months that do not have a water fire. And what we found is water fire does drive up hotel occupancy, but more importantly, it drives up rate, particularly at this time of year in the shoulder seasons when our hotels, have a little bit more of a struggle to fill them. So for example, a November lighting in Providence yields an average increase in occupancy of 15.7% and an average increase in rate of 57.4%. So that is a resulting hotel revenue increase of 83.3%. And then what we did is we looked at the rate increases applied to water fire, and then we looked at the state hotel tax revenue. That was the change in that, and then we multiplied that by a 20-year term, which is the term of this lease. That water fire effect, just using 2025 numbers, is an additional $50 million into the state of Rhode Island. The other thing we did is, like all of you, we wonder who comes to water fire. So we did something a little creepy, but also very effective. We drew a digital fence around the August 9th water fire and took a look at the zip codes of those in that footprint. Overall, Massachusetts had the highest number of visitors by state, but there were visitors from 27 states at that one water fire. The zip codes were very diverse as people really come from all over, but the top 4 zip codes were actually in the city of Providence. And so what that says to me is Waterfire is beloved by visitors, but it's also beloved by locals. As Joe said in his testimony, Waterfire is really emblematic of Providence. Its arresting imagery is something that we use in all of our marketing materials. And I've been doing PR for this city for 20 years, and it is the consistent thing that people ask about. As Bob mentioned, we hosted 30 journalists over the weekend from the Society of American Travel Writers, and we were able to get them all out on boats from Waterfire. But what you might not know is it's also a powerful sales tool for us. As we're booking these meetings, conventions, and sporting events, we'll often have groups that will fund a partial or basin Waterfire. And then without question, any group that's coming in will ask us if they happen to be here over a Waterfire event. So I can tell you also, as a member of this board, that we, along with the staff, have been working diligently to strengthen the organization. And we really look forward to the future, and we thank you all, because I think after all these dark times, I think we all need a little light. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen,
Thank you all for having us here to explain our situation and to answer questions. Thank you, Chairperson, for inviting me. I'm going to hand this out. I think we may have received this ahead of time, and I'm going to. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know all the protocols. If I do something wrong, please.
let's just wait a second till we get it. I need my committee to have you. Copies. Thank you very much. Okay, three members, you all have a copy of this document, I, typed City Council Finance Committee, November 4, 2025, Mark Allen, Executive Director, Board of Fire. It is a 5-page document, 6-page document. May I have a motion to enter this as Exhibit 2C, motion made by Councilman Angela, seconded by Councilwoman Reagan. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Allen, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My role here today is to talk about the financial aspect of Waterfire, so I'm going to focus on that. First, talking about what I found and what we've done in the 10 or 11 months I've been here, and then what our future route is going forward with your assistance. I came here about the 1st of 2025. And I found a Waterfire Providence that had lost $900,000 in 2023. Basically, all cash reserves were gone, and the organization was living on the line of credit of $650,000. So financially, not a pretty picture at all. And in fact, at the beginning, there were questions of whether we could even go on. And my assessment was, this could be made to work, but not easily, and not without assistance. So the first year, we took a series of actions to improve things. We stabilized the finances, but with a dire cash situation. We filled essential positions that were vacant, but we tightened staffing further and eliminated 3 additional positions. So we're down 26% staffing in the past 2 years from 2023. So we have cut very substantially. We restructured management roles and added missing functions, such as human resources, financial analytics, and legal counsel. Legal counsel pro bono, the others within existing staff. No additional cost, but functions that are essential that weren't actually in place. We managed to cash pay period to pay period to stay solvent enough to meet our payroll. We began creating data and analytics to manage the bottom line performance as a way to move out of this. And then 2 things I'll touch on more. We initiated a major donor program, and we created a financial improvement plan formally. Finally, we renegotiated with Barnaby a new licensing agreement. The previous one was running out this year. And the new arrangement, important to say, is exclusive licensing for Rhode Island, which is unconditional, irrevocable, and in perpetuity. Which means that the board of directors holds, in effect, the licensing rights permanently to Waterfire, and I would say holds it on behalf of the people of Providence, for which this really exists. The board of directors of a nonprofit exists for the benefit of the people. So this arrangement is a very important step also.
And that is signed and sealed.
As of August 28th, 2025. Yes.
Thank you.
So what remained after these steps and improvements and strengthening was still an existential financial challenge. Our cash situation was we were drawing down to the bottom of the line of credit just to meet payroll. And this was too dire to build that work out of over years. We're on the verge of ending. Our path to future financial strength has two parts. The first is the purchase of the building by the city and lease back at effectively no cost, which reestablishes cash and reserves, so we're not on the brink. The second is a full and aggressive implementation of the financial plan to create positive annual results and stability operating in the black, not in the red. And they're not the same thing. The sale gives us that existential base, but we face the same challenges we had before that in terms of each year covering our costs. And that's what the financial plan is designed to address. And I'll go through this quickly. Three parts to it. The first is management effectiveness. The second is revenue optimization, improving what we have. And the third is revenue expansion, some new pieces that will make a big difference. In effectiveness, key elements are, I put strong leadership. I have done a lot of this. Each situation is unique. It has unique challenges. It has its unique solutions. But I am someone who is experienced working with community-based nonprofits that struggle financially. Lean staff, I already talked about the fact we have cut back 25% of our staff in 2 years since that very difficult year. Tight management. Management sophistication and effectiveness are being improved, leading to greater efficiency, focus, and impact. The tools of business can also serve an arts organization as it attends simultaneously the mission, strategy, and the bottom line. That's something I bring in. I was on the faculty full-time of a business school for 8 years and taught all this stuff. But everything I've done has been mission-driven, serving low-income people, people struggling with different conditions. And that is what I do, but you still need to run it like a business with all those tools. Because you have the responsibility to the people to do that, to make as much use of resources as you can. So that's what we're bringing, and it's a check. Staff bottom line accountability. Staff will be given clear accountability for the bottom line performance linked to an enterprise-wide income optimization, education, and engagement process. I can't quite believe it myself. We have people who came in here in the arts who have deep dedication, who are sitting there on their own, and they're doing PowerPoint presentations about the financial functioning of their part of the operation and how to improve it. And I didn't ask for PowerPoint. I'm tired of PowerPoint. But people are hungry for tools to be more effective because the staff all really care about it. So that's managing. Revenue optimization is doing better with what we have. We have a donor base that's fairly large with small gifts. We can grow that further. We have some very good database software we've never used effectively. We have someone who's doing that. and we can increase the average growth. We're stabilizing corporate sponsorships. The glory days of corporate support are gone. But combining that with more small scale lightings, which have less total cost, we're able to create basin lightings that financially work and are positive. State government is still going to be important. Grants and special events we hope to expand some. The expansion has three pieces. A major piece that's already actually in place is increased support from the tourism councils. And that has been dramatic. From 2024 to 25, we've gone from 195,000 to 345,000. And one of those people, and the person who was at the largest impact, is sitting next. And this is a tremendous help to the organization, but it also reflects what we provide for the city in terms of economic. So this is transactional and mission-driven simultaneously. And that always works the best of all, right? Second is the newest thing, which is a major large donor program. We're 30 years old and we have never really pursued in any organized way major donors. In the early days, we had some large gifts that wasn't continued, and we made no regular effort for that. As corporate support has gone down, we need something that can grow, and this is that piece. And so this is a very important part of our future. I brought in a guy, Norm Stein, who has a very strong track record in Massachusetts in the arts and in other areas. I worked in an organization with him, saw him at work. And he's doing this on a, not pro bono, but reduced fee basis and helping us develop that. And then you can ask, is that possible? I mean, we have a visibility that is unique among organizations and an impact, as we've already talked about. As if to demonstrate that this is real, 3 weeks ago we had Fireball. And at the end of it, one of the people we've been talking about in terms of large gifts quietly came up to the microphone and said, well, I hear that this is almost the 500th lighting. And in keeping with that, I think I should pledge $500,000 for it. And he pledged a multi-year gift for $500,000. So this is just the beginning of the process. They're not going to all be like that, but he's introduced 9 of his friends who he feels could also be enticed to help. So that is an absolute critical part. And then the last part is addressing urban economic development in a more direct way. We work with companies and we help with their marketing, but we can directly work to help the urban core. And we're involved with Providence Foundation already. So that's the outline. At the bottom, you have some illustrious projections of what it could look like in 2 years in each of these areas and what the financial impact is. I'm not going to go through that. And the last page is about something that Bob was alluding to, which is the importance of the use of the building itself. I know the lighting and the river are probably front of mind, but that also matters. Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. Very nicely done. May I ask committee members any questions on this matter? Of any of the presenters? Councilman Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you so much to everyone that presented. In terms of, this is probably for me and our finance team. So our debt service payment, what's the breakdown? Because I know it's a straight bond for the 2 buildings. But what's the percentage of that that's specific to this? Or I guess you can't really break that down, right?
I can, so we, for this year, the interest on the water fire portion of the bond will be 103,000, that's a half a year. Next year, that interest goes up to 206,000. So the total interest is 2.67 million. The principal is about 4 million. So in total, that's 6.2. I'll note that our appraisal is 7.9. So even after the 20-year period, interest and principal, we will still have paid less than the current appraised value.
Thank you. And just to follow up, I guess is that, and as someone said at the beginning of it, so is that like the main thought process on the dollar lease?
Correct. It's two things. One, it's three things. The one, like, the purpose of this, to be clear, is to find a way for the city to contribute to the shoring up and future success of the organization. And so doing this lease and charging them money that isn't in their operating budget now isn't gonna accomplish that goal. Two, they're paying for all of their operations and maintenance while the city owns the building. So we have other situations where we're required to do maintenance on buildings. If the roof collapses, Waterfire is responsible for it, but we still own the asset. So that's important. And then third is, like, this is also an investment for us. We maintain the rights to do with this building what we think it should happen at the end of this lease. In theory, it's gonna appreciate over time, and so we will end up having, increased the revenue to the city based on this. I'll also say that, Joe and I were talking before, like, it's important to us that we maintain this building as the arts center. Waterfire could have sold this building to a private developer to be turned into something else. We're seeing the development of Director Wilson calls an arts district in that neighborhood. We are invested in that, and so continuing to invest in Waterfire's future use of that building as an art center, we believe is an important economic development tool. And we hope we'll be able to work with you all on other investments in that area that can continue that.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Thank you. Did you guys, this is for the Waterfire team, I guess the first question is, when was the current building built and what was like the main funding sources to make that building happen in the first place?
Great question, Councilman. Some was before my time, so people might be yelling over my shoulder. It was a brownfield site and there was a lot of, there was federal money involved, there was grant money involved. If you look on the books of Waterfire, the building is listed at slightly over $10 million if memory serves, because you have to capitalize all the costs. Now, you're never gonna get any money back from the $2+ million to remediate the brownfield that were underneath, but from an accounting standpoint, you have to list that. That will all, of course, go away when the transaction was completed. And there were a series of tax credits available to help make that happen. The logical conclusion of those, from talking to experts in the area who went through similar things with similar nonprofits, mostly out of state, was then you sell the bill. As Courtney pointed out, and certainly there were discussions at the board level, you could sell the building for a lot more money, but then we probably couldn't stay in the building and we'd be a vagabond operation, and we could keep the main event, we could keep Waterfire itself. But because we believe that there's a great synergistic value of having the art center as an art center in addition to having the event going on, that's why we did what we did. But you take advantage of programs that exist at the time, and that's what they did when they saw the vision to build. The downside of my outside observation of someone returning to that board is the effort into building the building became their endowment. They did not do a large donor, I'm back, so we did not do a large donor campaign to start to build an endowment. They put the efforts into the building, but they got to the same place from an economic standpoint. And I would be, and I was in my prior life a negotiator, so we have a phrase called the best best alternative to a negotiated agreement, and this would be the negotiated agreement that we think is the best alternative to accept. If something like this didn't work out, we'd probably have to sell the building to someone who might do whatever they wanted to, because we can't control that. But, we clearly think to keep both parts of the operation going, this is the best way to move forward.
Thank you. I asked that because, I was curious, so was there ever like a loan on the building? There was no.
There was, another great question. The line of credit, when it was increased, does have a lien against the building. There were funds used, without, a lien on the building, and certainly were part of it. As, you know, this is where the former banker training comes in versus negotiator training. I said, well, if you're spending money to do legal and accounting fees because you're doing a transaction like this, well, there was no loan. There were certainly funds that were expended, in addition to all the money that came in from grants and loans and programs. So I would say it's not a clean answer. Well, there was no debt against the building until they allowed the line of credit to have a lien against it. There were certainly transaction costs along the way that added to costs that Waterfire incurred that were outside of their own operations.
Am I gonna keep going, gentlemen?
Please.
Thank you.
Ask me a good question.
So are you guys depending on the purchase of this building to pay out like that $600,000 loan? Or
Oh,
line of
yeah, the
credit?
goal is to, we, still have a line of credit, available to us, but yeah, we would pay down the line of credit. We have, got a grant from, LISC to help fund things that we will pay back. There was an SBA loan that came in during, COVID that we don't have to pay back all at once, but, this will recapitalize the assets. In 2003, as Mark testified, they ran a very large deficit that wiped out their capital reserves. The way money flows, and I've, having lived in both worlds, we get government support, but as you know, the city and the state are on a different fiscal year than the operation. So, for instance, for the last couple of years and for the last several years, Waterfire has been supported by the Rhode Island State Council for the Arts, and that is funded on an ongoing basis. We incur expenses, we get reimbursed for those expenses. We go through that, and it's $400,000 in the State Council for the Arts budget. That gets depleted by the end of the year. Now, in January, you don't have water fires other than the little thing we do for New Year's. But you still have expenses, so you either start borrowing under a line of credit and then start paying that line of credit off as events start and more cash flow comes in, or you use your cash reserves to cover it. In the old days, they could use their cash reserves to cover it until the cash reserves were gone. So there would still likely be a line of credit in place, but not probably for the foreseeable future, wouldn't have to be used because this transaction essentially recapitalizes the organization.
Thank you. You touched on it a little bit. What was like the main reason for such a big loss in 2023? Was that like consistent like in COVID years, or I'm just curious because like, that's still one year.
I'm under oath. I wasn't on the board at the time, but I can read financial statements pretty well, because when I agreed to go back on the board, I went on fully cognizant there was a loss, and they did not cut expenses. They were running a $4 million expense level budget, which would have been sufficient to support the full-blown operation in both on the water and in the building, and didn't deal with it, and did not get that extra level of economic support. And kind of the worst case scenario of everything coming together. Not that a lot of other organizations in the arts and culture area didn't experience same things. And then, like, in another part of my life, I do a lot of boards now. I'm on the management, I'm on the board of a company called Professional Facilities Management, which is, you've never heard of maybe, but it's a management company that runs PPAC and the vets and everything else. They had SVOG money, shuttered venue opportunity grant money, to recapitalize so that they wouldn't have to lay off staff. Unfortunately, Waterfire doesn't charge. We don't have seats, we don't sell tickets, so we couldn't access the level of money that the Providence Performing Arts, the vets and PFM facilities like that throughout the country could access. So it was kind of like, we're being punished, not punished, we're not getting the same subsidies because we're a free event. You know, we would, and kind of that gallows humor that comes in these things, if only we had seats, then we could have said, well, the seats are unoccupied.
I would add, you know, in my work, I do a lot with arts organizations and you're seeing the problems in the decline in corporate giving across the board to arts organizations. During the pandemic, any of that ARPA funding that arts organizations received would go to their bottom line because it had to, and then that went away, so that made a giant hole. So the things that are happening to water, yes, some of it was they through their own issues, and some of it was the reflection of the time.
Yeah, and without picking on our very generous outside sponsors whose help we greatly appreciate, I want to emphasize that. Sometimes it would be charitable and sometimes it would be transactional. If Brown or RISD are going to support their Brown's Parents Weekend or RISD's graduation weekend and COVID has made everything go away and we can't do a water fire, then they're probably not inclined to make that donation for a year where the event, your time where the event itself isn't going to occur. Which is why, as Mark testified, finally, 30 years later, we're refocusing on the large philanthropic donor community, which has helped many of the arts organizations in the state. So that, you know, I think that it's obvious. I was there at the fireball where the very generous donor stood up and said they're going to make a single multi-year commitment, and we're going to have to work in that space. There are fewer corporations as we walk up and downtown, and they all have more demands. You know, before, when as Barnaby could testify and has, when we've testified at the State House, there was a hospital trust and a fleet and the citizens and you could just go down and name 8 banks and the several insurance companies and everything else, all who'd like to do and support a water fire. Now there are fewer of them. Some of those decisions are made out of state versus in state, and the dollar amounts are generally smaller, and you've got more demand from organizations on a smaller pool of sponsorship money there. So you've got to diversify your support. And let me emphasize again, government support along the way has been critical. We wouldn't be alive without the generosity of the state and city pass.
Thank you. Last question, if that's okay, Chairman?
Okay.
Thank you. I have more, but I'll skip them for now.
We can talk later if you want.
I'll be here all night. I don't know. What is, just out of curiosity, what's like the current like rental fee structure of like a nonprofit or an org wants to use the space currently, and is there any plans to change that after this transaction?
I don't know the answer to the current rental structure of the folks, but Mark might.
No, there are 2 rentals, one is to Wilbury, one is to Wheeler.
Can you get closer so that
Events.
Can you get closer?
More market.
So that way we can capture.
Hold on, hold
I'm
on.
sorry.
Sit down, please sit down. You asked a question.
Ask the question again, I think I misunderstood.
Yeah, so say if someone wants to use the water fire, like the main space for any type of event, what's the fee structure on that? Is it same rate for everyone or nonprofits? Can you just?
It's actually fairly complex. It has to do with the time of year, the day of the week. And we charge regularly less for nonprofit than for-profit. So every one is based on, sometimes the venue is needed 2 days because there's a preparation day, that's charged more. So there's a structure to it, there are moving parts to be used consistently, but each one is uniquely structured based on.
And
Can I just,
Yeah.
following up on my colleague's question, is that posted, those rates, those costs, those rental costs?
No, they're constructed in each situation, so there'd be an interaction with the person who's interested. There's a whole discussion of what they need and want and what we can offer, because it
They're
has to.
customized for the,
And then as it becomes clear what they want based on those things, then a quote is put together.
continue, Councilman Sanchez, I'm sorry.
no worries, thank you. is the intention to keep that like same process, app continuing after this type of transaction?
Yeah, that's an essential part of our revenue, and, you know, as we go forward, our challenge is we gotta keep the revenue above the expense, not below. So that is something, it is complex, we have art exhibits also. So, we do other things with the space, and there's some trade-off in terms of revenue. But we have every intention to continue that, in the near future, because it's an essential part of how we operate from each.
Thank you. Super last question, let's sneak in. How big is your staff?
We have 20 staff total.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Antoine.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you for this great presentation, huge fan of water fire. But just one quick question, maybe this is for Courtney. What happens at the end of 20 years?
To be determined by the parties.
Okay, so it's not, okay.
Councilwoman Graves.
I want to go touch back on what you two were asking about the pricing. And you said it's not listed. So how do I know that if I'm going in there under the same premise as somebody else? And whether or not I'm paying the same amount, you know? So is it listed afterwards? Is there some way I can find out, what your basic thing is?
Well, you would get a quote based on, here are the specifications of what you're saying you need. And here would be the pricing for it.
So there is a place where the pricing is.
Well, we provide the pricing, but it's, since it's different for each situation, depending on that, there isn't like a list like in a restaurant. But it's explicit what the charges are ahead of time, and it's worked out based on what people need. And sometimes there are choices about it. They might say, well, if I gave up this piece, what would happen to the price?
And I know as long as there's something somewhere listed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And we are committed, we don't just serve nonprofits, but we see it as a resource for everyone.
Mhm.
And we feel very good about things we host that are for the public. And as I say, there's a differential for nonprofit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Thank you. I've had a meeting, I have my monthly meetings, and one of the biggest things that's coming up is this dollar, rent. And as you know, we raised the rents here in the city. So the people are like, well, wait a minute, you're raising our taxes and rents have went up and all this other stuff. Why are they getting a dollar? Can they at least pay 1,000? So can you tell me what the reasoning is, and if that has nothing to do with you, or if it goes to
Yeah.
Courtney?
I mean, so like, 1,000 would be like also arbitrary, you know, to us, this is about shoring up the organization, and so $1 is symbolic, but, I kind of described the rationale. I would also say for our constituents, I think Krista did an excellent job of laying out the economic benefits. I'll remind us that I think now 2% of our hotel tax now comes to the city and 1% of meal and beverage tax. We need to increase those numbers. Part of how we can reduce property taxes is by maximizing the amount of revenue coming from other sources. And so it's our assessment, based on, again, that great data, that this will help us do that. And so I hope constituents can feel like making sure that water fire is secure for the next 20 years is actually an investment in us, hopefully over time, reducing property taxes and making it less expensive to live in the city because we don't have to be so reliant.
From the water fire side, if I may, we're struggling to cover our expenses or revenue, to stay in the black, right? And that's hard. I think we can do it, but it isn't going to be easy. It's a very expensive thing to do, as you can imagine. And that break even is something we have to achieve. If we were to pay a new rental equal to, let's say, the interest, that would be a devastating increase in our cost and make the hole we're trying to fill much, much larger and make it that much more difficult to be able to continue. So, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I just want you to
Yeah.
say what.
And there are other examples, I think we know of other nonprofit that have agreements like this. In some cases, we've worked, the Providence TAP is a good example of where they had a dollar lease. They were doing all the maintenance on their building. They were like, this is crazy. We just want to move the building. And we just want to own the building. So with your help, we were able to transfer it to them. The Da Vinci Center is a different example where that organization really is in a position to own their building. They need the partnership with the city. So this is not something that isn't done ever. It's something that we've worked to try to understand and make sure that the arrangement is bringing value to the city, whatever we're doing. And this is an example of where we feel that it is.
And I'm sorry, this is, comment, I think maybe we need to be saying something like that. It gives, this one thing gives to the whole city, it's downtown and it's for everybody, it's not one side of town versus another side of town. And,
That is core to what we believe and aspire to.
mhm.
To your point, Councilwoman, if we always think about it in terms of jobs, in the hotel community, it takes 13 hotel rooms to keep a housekeeper employed.
Mhm.
And that's the thing we think about when we think about the economic impact.
Okay.
An economic engine, that's great. Okay, committee members, are you good?
I'd like to make a motion to approve number 2.
Motion made by Vice Chair.
Oh, yeah, no question.
No, it's exactly,
Oh,
I was just chewing. so-
Motion made by Vice Chair Taylor, second.
We don't-
Councilman Adwell, in
You
favor.
don't have any things to ask any questions?
Would you like to ask questions? I didn't see any hands.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, who has hands? You?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
I know the agenda.
Okay, folks, Councilman, Bashada, you'd like to ask a question?
Thank you. Just for clarification, once it's approved and is leased back to the organization, the organization, in order to have, do you have an operating budget? And if for some reason you need funding to fix that roof, would you be seeking dollars from raising it from private entity or banks, or asking for the city to be able to help out?
In my mind, the deal is, this is a big deal. This is making a big difference. And we need to work from there and not see the city as the place we keep coming back to. So no, not from the city.
So, and the operating budget in a sense of standing right now.
Yeah.
Once everything is, what is that a year?
Our budget is about $3 million.
$3 million. That's the operating, everything.
That's everything.
Facility and everything.
That's everything.
And lastly, Madam Chair, seeing that it's also a nonprofit and so forth, never mind, that's fine. It's okay, no, I got it,
You're all set?
yes, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Right.
Councilman Longo.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to say thank you for your leadership and all that you're doing to stabilize the finances. And I just want to bring in a personal anecdote. You know, I'm at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, and over the summer, I had several colleagues say, hey, we're really interested in water fire. So we had them come down,
Yes.
and there were 30 countries represented in my program. So people from China and Malaysia and Peru and Pakistan and Canada, and they had a ball. And they went to track 15. They spent thousands of dollars, literally. And they took all of these amazing pictures by the river, and they went back to Harvard and they talked about it and sent it to their family members. And I just want to state that for the record, because I think everyone has a conception of how powerful water fire is, but to think about how it really touched these people internationally. And I'm just curious to hear more about, how are you leveraging particularly the Massachusetts market? What do you intend to do to increase corporate sponsorships there? There are so many colleges and universities that I'm sure you guys could tap into, and they're not we're not far away. So just, I'd be curious to hear about what your strategy is there to entice larger donors or partnerships outside of Rhode Island.
That hasn't been a focus, though it's come up. I'd love to have a conversation with you about your experience and your thoughts on that. That group of people you're with are also future leaders at a national level.
And actually, we did have it was the former governor of Mexico came down, the former prime minister.
Yeah, they're not just people
Yeah.
from around the world, they're the leaders, becoming leaders. And how to reach out, it's that old problem, you have Boston, you have New York, you have all the arrogance in the ways of each of those cities. And how do we here connect and access in a way that people will, in a way, take us seriously to invest? And I'd love to hear your thoughts from your experience of going up there with some of the coming elite. Because I'm from Massachusetts, I was born in New York. I both see the potential, but also the barriers because of how people think. And, but I think it's definitely worth pursuing because that's where the big money is.
Madam Auditor, are you all set?
All set. Thank you,
Madam
Chairman.
Auditor, do you have a question?
Funny, with this contract, will there be any general fund money expensed on, what if I, any in kind, any grants?
I believe it will be our intention to continue to maintain the grant in the general fund budget in our proposed budget, next time. That grant is primarily used to pay police details, which water fire is now current doing. But that will be for the council to consider when the mayor proposes our next budget.
It'll be an item negotiated.
Correct.
Okay.
Again, for the reason that we described, like our goal is to shore them up. I hope in 5 years they're doing so well that, maybe we decide we don't need to do that, but I don't think this is the moment to.
Our city fees are about $100,000.
Okay. So, everybody all set?
Motion that we approve number 2.
I already did that. You already motioned and Councilman and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. The matter is Players Finance and now heads to the full council for the vote. I want to thank you all, folks. This was a very well done presentation. You anticipated our question and you put together a nice package for us, very neatly. Also made yourself available to answer questions along the way. So thanks, job well done. We're excited to be partners with you folks. And we're looking for great things out of Water Fire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, Madam Clerk, could you please read item 1 into the record?
Ordinance in the city of Providence approving the financing of the Miles History Project by the issuance of appropriation obligations, therefore an amount not to exceed $6,200,000.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All righty. Okay, so we will have the item read into the record. Everybody's been sworn in, correct? Right? Okay, boy, you're so efficient. I am going to ask the committee to enter. I have one letter to the clerk on this matter. It's from Roz Rustigan. And I will, and the committee members have received the, we've all have it. Motion to make that item 1A. So moved by Councilman Anwar, seconded by Councilman Taylor. All right, folks, we've had a lot of discussion on this, and I think everybody is fully aware of what is going on. Committee members, do you have any questions on this topic? Or shall we just go into a vote? Any questions? Councilman Sanchez.
Thank you. I have questions for city solicitor in terms of procedure, first of all, what the process is, if this was denied in a previous committee.
And when you say previous committee, previous to here,
Yes.
and then my understanding, it went to the full council and then referred back, is
Hold
that?
on a second, let me just clarify the question so that we make sure that everybody understands the question and everybody understands the answer. So this matter came before finance. Why, it came out of finance, with a recommendation to deny. It went to the council floor. When it got to the council floor, the council voted to send it back to committee. It came back to committee. And I called for a public hearing at the request of, this committee voted to call a public hearing. We wanted more information. After the public hearing, it was posted by me for another vote in committee. So the question is, are we able to vote on this item as a new matter appearing before this committee?
Yes,
We have,
it's a separate date, a separate item. Although it was, the recommendation was to deny, but to not approve. I wasn't here that night. So we are here today, it's a different date, it's a different vote. So I think the recommendation could be to approve, or
okay,
it's a separate vote.
thank you. Committee members, any other questions? So are we ready to call a vote on this matter? More discussion,
Yeah,
Councilor?
I have discussion, I don't have a question. I am, my thing is, why are we rehashing stuff that went on? That was just basically answered because you went through these processes. But my biggest point is this a privilege thing? Because everything else that we have voted down in finance, since I've been here. Once it was voted down, that was the end of it. And then we keep going around in circles, everybody, keeps doing this. I sat at the, public hearing. And I looked into a sea of privilege and entitlement. And it did not sit right at all. I get the feeling that the only reason we're going through this is because of where it's coming from and who it's coming from. And I think it stinks to high to me and other people. And if we're gonna be rehashing and going back to over things that we voted on before and bringing them back, I think we're setting a horrible precedent, number one. Number two, I really and truly have a problem with 1/5 of a group to just try to get the rest of us to force us into trying to do something or take care of something. If it was voted out, it was voted out. And I mean, there's 12 of us. Why 3? Making 12. Take care of section in their area. There's a problem with that. And if you keep telling me, oh, well, this is a benefit for everyone, no, it's not. It's not a benefit for the other process. It's a benefit for that area. And that is a short street that has sidewalks. I read all this information. I'm almost done. I read all this information and a lot of it was, oh, well, they're generating all this and it's a win-win. No, it's not a win-win. The other thing was, well, we have people that can't walk over there. Our children, we can't push our strollers down. We are tripping over stuff. Our seniors can't get by. Well, that's happening in the other 12 areas. All of us want to them. Yes, this is the only one that we are talking about doing something for. And I wish I could say, like I wish I could say for Trump, when he poured out the thing and built a wall. I wish I could say they know not what they do. But you do know what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing, you just don't care about the rest of us. That's what the feeling I'm getting, that's the feeling of a lot of people and other boards. And I think you need to think before you jump on this horse. And if we're gonna continue to do this, then what are we voting for?
Okay,
So that's my other thing. I'm done.
thank you very much. I call the public hearing, hold on a second, please. I call the public hearing because everyone had a different understanding of what this matter was all about. And I personally, enjoyed and found the public hearing very, very helpful. I did it. I found the public hearing very, very helpful. You say that this is not for, the entire city, it actually is. This is a matter of finance, it's not a matter of equity, it's a matter of economics. We have the opportunity, it was clearly presented in the finance committee, in the finance, public hearing, that this is a general obligation bond, it carries less, expensive, interest rate, lower interest rate. We know rates are going up. And the economics of the question, quite frankly, is if we put in sidewalks, with a general obligation bond, it was testified 2.33% possibly. We will basically be saving more money so that we can pave other sidewalks. So it does help everyone in the city. It is an economic question. It's been debated. You're welcome to your opinion. It's, we've had an open hearing, and Councilman Sanchez, you have another question?
No, can I just share my opinion quickly,
Ready?
respectfully?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I definitely, share a lot of the same sentiments that my colleagues shared. I think it does create a dangerous precedent. That the finance committee, three of us out of the five at the time, voted against it. And I didn't want to make that motion because I wanted to be a little bit open-minded, but after hearing the presentation and hours of conversation, I believe most of my colleagues here, I think Oscar was here too, all share, and Pedro, all shared concerns regarding the inequalities and the very one-sided, in my opinion, transaction that this does. At the end of the day, what I would like to see is a deal like this for all 15 wards and not one specific part of the neighborhood. And I know some of my colleagues on the east side sometimes think that we are really ganging up on them at times, but I've never seen it that way. Infrastructure is crappy across the city, unfortunately. But by moving forward with an action like this, it creates that perception in our neighborhoods. At the time, we were discussing the budget. So I know that was one of the big concerns is we're having conversations of raising taxes, but at the same time, we're gonna find it in our budget to be able to pay a loan payment. And then I do recognize the small interest on this payment, and I think that's an important piece. But at the end of the day, it's still an additional cost at the city, at a time where families are being kicked out, kids don't have food, creating additional expense that only benefits physically a certain part of the city. And I'll say, no one in my neighborhood that I've talked to, and I talked to a lot of people, has ever said, oh, let's go take a walk on Benefit Street. I just want to point that for the record so people know where I'm coming from. I'm sure, there is people that use it, but that's something that has never really motivated me in this conversation as a tourism attraction. The historical context, I think, is important. But at a time where kids are struggling with school, parents are struggling with utility bills, investing in a certain part of the city to attract tourism is not at the top of the priority list. So that's where I come from. In good faith, colleagues, came back using be as a those conversations. Let's open up the engagement. Let's see if there's a smaller dollar amount. But what has happened is completely opposite. The exact same thing was presented to me. I feel extremely disrespected by certain colleagues. The fact that we're voting on something that has not changed at all and different votes are gonna be made, really, makes me lose a little bit of faith in how transparent and democratic we have been to this point. I'm gonna be voting no. What I had agreed to was a smaller dollar amount. Let's make it ADA accessible while at the same time seeing how we can create this opportunity for the rest of the neighborhood. But that's not what's happening today, unfortunately. Thank you, Councilwoman.
There was additional information that we received in the public hearing, and that was the general obligation bond rates that make it so attractive. Financially, which is a benefit for the entire city. With that, may I have a motion on this matter?
I would motion to approve the amendment.
Motion made by Councilman Anderson, seconded by Council, Vice, Chair Taylor. All in favor? Aye.
No.
Opposed?
Nay.
No.
Okay, have you recorded those votes? Okay, so 2 days. 3 days, the matter passes, the matter goes, before the full council for hearings, for a vote, full vote. Thank you very much, thank you folks in the back.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn by Taylor.